been with me from the beginning. We've been with him from the very beginning. Nothing was made in his absence. He was dead from the beginning. When water was formed, when the earth was made, when our forefather Adam was formed, he stood alongside of the Father and helped to create all things. We are the people he chose from the beginning. We are the people he came to save. Matthew 15:24. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's why we done had it so hard in this world. Wake up with it.
Ben, you see it live, Ben? Yeah. Yeah, I see it live, 3:13. A couple seconds behind you. All right, so I just pointed it out, Ben. Yeah. You got about 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes.
Got lost the dash.
But it's about a minute and some change, right? Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Happy Shabbat. First thing I want to do is start with a prayer. I was starting from the 51st Psalms. Last time I read from 1 to 7, I believe. But I want to read from the 8th verse all the way down to probably the 15th verse. This is the 51st Psalms, the 8th verse. Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. Hide thy face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O Yahweh, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and uphold me with thy free spirit. Then will I teach transgressors thy ways, and sinners shall be converted unto thee. Deliver me from blood guiltness, O Yahweh, thou power of my salvation, and my tongue shall sing aloud of thy righteousness. The 15th verse. O Yahweh, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise. In the name of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, the water, Amen. Okay, brothers and sisters, the topic of this class, what is the topic, Yahweh? Is Egypt the reason why the Israelites were destroyed, or why the Israelites went went into destruction is because of Egypt. Now, Egypt wasn't the main reason. I'm going to explain that in this class. But Egypt was just used because the Israelites, it's something about Egypt that they really admired about Egypt, always wanted to go back to Egypt, always wanted to connect with Egypt. But the Most High kept sending the prophets, telling them, leave Egypt alone, don't go back to Egypt. But there were times now that the Most High had the Israelites to flee to certain parts of Egypt, but that was the Most High's doing, and they was under the Most High's protection. Okay, so the Most High sent the prophets out to warn the northern tribes and the southern tribes, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Okay, to warn them, leave Egypt alone. They kept making alliances with Egypt, and some of the alliances they was making with Egypt, matter of fact, all the alliances, Egypt promised them something, but they never came through. Okay, so this class is going to be a little history, and so get your pens and papers out, take notes. I'm going to show some pictures up on the monitor, and I'm going to give you some dates. So take your notes so you can go back and study this. And I know before the class we was watching the Jill Scott, right? Everybody was watching that, right? Everybody's mad at her for singing that song, but it's true. It's true. Let them get mad. Get mad at the truth. Okay, it's true. Okay, but that's a later time. We're going to get into this class and get your pens and papers out and let's study. Okay. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom were destroyed. Egypt is one of the reasons. Okay, because the kings kept making alliances with Egypt, and Egypt wasn't coming through with those alliances. They didn't have their word. Okay, their word, what they said they was going to do, they didn't do. Now let's start from the very beginning. Let's start when Egypt's involvement with the southern kingdom of Judah. Remember King Solomon. King Solomon set up a building program. I mean, if you study, if you read the Old Testament, I kind of like, I'm all over the book, but I like to go into the history of the Old Testament. I like to go into the Chronicles. I like to go into the Kings. I like to go into the Maccabees. I like to study that because a lot of that history is dealing with the other nations, is dealing with wars, is dealing with revolution, okay? It's dealing with battles. It's dealing with salvation. You know, the Israelites coming from up under certain enemies. Okay, I like to read about that. Okay, so here we go. Solomon set up a building program, especially to build the temple. Now, the northern tribes was involved in that. That's when the nation was one unified nation. You had King Saul was part of that unified nation. King Saul was a Benjamite, was the first king of Israel. You had King David, unified kingdom. You had King Solomon, a unified kingdom. Saul ruled for 40 years, David ruled for 40 years, and King Solomon ruled for 40 years. That was 120 years of unification. Okay, then the split took place. Y'all read about that? The split with Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And this is what Solomon did. So what happened that Jeroboam the first was of the northern tribes. Now, the northern tribes was upset with King Solomon because of his forced labor that he was putting on the northern tribes. So Jeroboam rose up and he started a rebellion against King Solomon. And remember that Solomon issued a death sentence upon Jeroboam. So what was left for Jeroboam to do? He had to get out of Jerusalem. And he fled to where? Egypt. He fled to Egypt. See, that's how Egypt kind of got connected and got involved with this whole thing. So he fled into Egypt. But before that, remember the story that Jeroboam was in the field and he met a prophet by the name of Ahijah, the Shilonite. Ahijah met Jeroboam and he took his garments and he cut his garment into 12 pieces and he gave Jeroboam 10 pieces. And he told him, you're going to rule 10 of these tribes. Okay. And that became what? The northern kingdom. And all this was what King Solomon did, started bowing down to his wives of the gods, the Moabite gods, the Ammonite gods, the Edomite gods. So the kingdom was rendered, taken away from King Solomon. So when the prophet met Jeroboam the first and ripped his garments, gave him 10 pieces, okay, that's when the spirit began to activate. So let's go to 1 Kings, the 11th chapter and the 40th verse. The book of 1 Kings, the 11th chapter and the 40th verse.
We're in the book of 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, beginning at the 40th verse.
And the 40th verse.
Solomon sought, therefore, to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt until Shishak, the king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon.
Okay, Jeroboam fled to Egypt and he went to Shishak. He's also called Shishak the First, if you go look it up, of the 22nd dynasty. Okay, so what he did, he gave, well, when Jeroboam fled into Egypt, the king of Egypt, Shishak, gave Jeroboam a what? An asylum, which gave him protection. Jeroboam was a political refugee. And you see that in our time now where leaders, when leaders are overthrown and so forth, or when they taken from power and they flee to other countries and they get an asylum and their country protect them. Like Assata Shakur. Remember, she went to Cuba. Okay, Cuba gave her an asylum. And Jeroboam went to Egypt, so the Egyptian king took him in, but that was for political reasons as well. And the Egyptian king was looking at something way down the road. See, this was for a political reason and also for the commercial routes of the Israelites that was up in the north. Okay, that's what the king Shishak is looking at. He's looking at this on a political level. And also, if you have read the history about Idi Amin. Idi Amin got an asylum from Saudi Arabia. Remember when the Tanzanian army came up against him and the rebel forces, they captured Kampala in 1979, and they took Idi Amin from power. So he first went into Libya, then he went into Iraq, and then he finally went into Saudi Arabia until his death in 2003. Okay, so Shishak's eyes was on the commercial routes of the northern kingdom. Now, after Solomon died, his son Rehoboam reigned. I'm gonna give you some dates. Rehoboam rulership from 931 to 913 BC. And during Rehoboam's rule, the northern tribes rebelled. The unwise decision of Rehoboam was a direct cause of the division of David's united kingdom, because Rehoboam was listening to his homeboys. He was listening to his friends instead of listening to the counselors that came up with David and that was counseling King Solomon. But he wanted to listen to his friends. Now, jump to the 29th verse in that same 11th chapter.
1 Kings 11, chapter and 29th verse.
Right.
And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field.
Okay, and read the 30th verse.
And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces.
Okay. Read on.
And he said unto Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for thus said the Lord Yahweh, the power of Israel. Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee.
And give thee 10 tribes. That's why when you read in the history, you got the northern kingdom and you got the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was taken into captivity in 722 BC by the Assyrians. And that's the northern kingdom. And the southern kingdom was taken into captivity by the Babylonians in 586 BC. Y'all write this down. Now, like I said, Shishak took advantage of the division, so he marched what? He marched against Jerusalem. Because he already saw that the whole nation is divided now. Okay, yeah, I got Rehoboam, I got this northern kingdom. Okay, I got the commercial routes and all that. So now I see the division. Now I'm going to attack Jerusalem now. I'm going south and attack Jerusalem. Give me 1 Kings 14.
1 Kings
14 chapter 25th to the 28th verse.
And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, and he took away the treasures of the house of the Lord.
You see that it came to pass in the 5th year of the king Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, and he took away the treasures of the house of the Most High. Go ahead and read.
And the treasures of the king's house, he even took away all, and he took away all the shields of gold which Solomon had made.
See there? Go ahead.
And the king Rehoboam made in their stead brazen of shields, and committed them unto the hands of the chief of the guard, which kept the door of the king's house.
Okay, when nations went to war, when kings went to war, they got rich. Every time the enemy came into Jerusalem, they got rich. Took the gold, took the silver, took all that back to their own country. Now, Israel did the same thing. The Israelites did the same thing. When you read about Asa, King Asa, or one of the kings of Judah, that he had a war against the Ethiopians and the Egyptians together. And he won that battle, and he got rich from that battle. See, so it's just like America. America get rich from wars. Okay, nations get rich from wars. Okay, blood money. Okay, when blood is spilled in war, nations get rich, man. Go ahead and read.
And it was so, when the king went into the house of the Lord, that the guard bare them, and brought them back into the guard chamber. Now the rest of the acts of Rehoboam, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah?
Okay, let's go to 2 Chronicles 12. We're going to do a lot of reading today, so get ready. We're going to do a lot of reading. Let's go to 2 Chronicles, the 12th chapter, and the 2nd verse. 2 Chronicles, the 12th chapter, and the 2nd verse. We're going to read from, let's try from 2 to 12. We may cut it short. Read the 2nd verse to the 12th verse.
And it came to pass that in the 5th year of the king Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, because they had transgressed against the Lord.
Now it said the king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem because of what?
He had transgressed against the Lord.
The Israelites went against the Most High. Now the title of the class, I'm explaining that to you. Egypt wasn't the main cause of the destruction of the Israelites. It was because of the Israelites' hard head. And the Most High sent nations against the Israelites. And Egypt was a main player because the Israelites trusted in Egypt. Okay, they saw something in Egypt. They kept making alliances with Egypt for Egypt to save them, but they never came through. And the prophets was trying to tell them and direct them the right way, but they didn't take the prophets' advice. Okay, so I'm kind of explaining it to you that Egypt played a part in that, but they wasn't the main reason why the Israelites went into captivity and why they was destructive or they was destroyed. Okay, continue to read.
Verse 3, with 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen, and the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, the Libyans, the Sukkums, and the Ethiopians.
Ethiopia, go ahead.
And he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. Then came Shemaiah, the prophet.
See, there go another prophet. You had Ahijah the prophet was dealing with Jeroboam. Now you got Shemaiah the prophet is dealing with Rehoboam. See, the Most High got prophets all over. You had Isaiah, you had Hosea, you had Amos, you had Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel. You had many prophets. Go ahead and read.
Then came Shemaiah the prophet to Rehoboam and to the princes of Judah that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, Thus said the Lord Yahweh, ye have forsaken me, and therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak.
See what the Most High said, because you have disobeyed me, you have forsaken me, I've sent the Egyptians up against you because of you. Read on.
Whereupon the princes of Israel and the king of humbled themselves, and they said, The Lord is righteous. And when the Lord Yahweh saw that they humbled themselves, The word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves, therefore I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance, and my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak.
Okay.
Nevertheless, they shall be his servants, that they may know my service and the service of the kingdoms of the countries.
Read that 9th verse.
So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house.
I want y'all to listen to this 9th verse now, because we're going to get, while he's reading that, Yahweh, pull up the picture of the Buba State portal. Pull that up. Because when we read in this, a lot of the scholars say that, well, it's not written in the records of the king Shishak that Jerusalem was destroyed. But the scriptures don't say that King Shishak came up against Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem. It said he took the treasures, he got rich. See, the reason Jerusalem was not destroyed because the king Rehoboam paid him off. You had a lot of Israelite kings like Hezekiah paid off the Assyrian Sennacherib. Okay, they was paying them off with the gold, with the silver. But Jerusalem was spared, and that was the Most High. See, go ahead and read.
Verse 9. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made.
Okay.
Instead of which King Rehoboam made shields of brass and committed them to the hands of the chief of the guard that kept the entrance of the king's house.
Read 11.
And when the king entered into the house of the Lord, the guard came and fetched them and brought them again into the guard chamber.
Okay, read the 12th verse.
And when he humbled himself, the wrath of the Lord turned from him, that he would not destroy him altogether, and also in Judah things went well.
Went well. Okay, you got that pic? Put it up on their monitor. This is the Buba State portal, and it records the conquest and the military campaign of Shishak, who is Shishak the first of the 22nd dynasty. It's also called the inscription of Shishak, and it's also called the Shishak Stele. Okay, we're still waiting on it. And the reason that Jerusalem is not mentioned on Shishak's list, because, like I said, the king Rehoboam of Judah paid him off. And you wondering where they get all those riches from. Okay, we're going to get another scripture until he put up that portal. Let's go to 2 Chronicles and show you where the kings and King Rehoboam got all the riches, all that gold. Let's see where he got it from. 2 Chronicles, the 9th chapter, and the 13th verse.
Second Chronicles, the 9th chapter.
Start from the 13th verse. We might read all the way to the 28th, but we may cut it short. Start from the 13th verse.
2 Chronicles, the 9th chapter, 13th verse.
This is Solomon's wealth, King Solomon's wealth, the father of King Rehoboam. Go ahead.
Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which chapmen and merchants brought.
Right.
And all the kings of Arabia and governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon.
You hear that? Now the weight of gold that came to King Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. And it say, besides that which chapmen and merchants brought, and all the kings of Arabia and governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. Read on.
And the king Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one target.
Okay, that's where it came from. That's where all the gold and silver came from. Okay, that's what Rehoboam inherited. Read on. And when King Shishak came in, that's what he took. Read on.
And 300 shields made he of beaten gold. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon.
Oh, Lebanon. So how we coming with that pick? Read on.
Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. And there were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and the stays on each side of the sitting place, and 2 lions standing by the stays.
Read the 19th.
And the 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom.
Read the 20th verse.
And all the drinking vessels of the king Solomon were of gold. And all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon.
See there? You see that? Read the 21st verse.
For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the service of Hiram. Every 3 years, one came to the ships of Tarshish, bringing gold.
Right, the ships of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver. Read on.
And silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks.
That was part of y'all test, the animals, apes and peacocks, right? Those the animals that was brought. Read on, that was brought to Solomon. Read.
And King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom.
You see that? And King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. You see that? So King Rehoboam, Solomon's son, inherit all those riches. Now when Shishak, the king of Egypt, came into Jerusalem, the Israelites repented. So the Most High spared Jerusalem from being destroyed, but Shishak did receive the treasures. Rehoboam paid him off. You see that? But what I wanted to get on the monitor, I want y'all to write this name down and y'all go look this up. I wanted to get the Buba State Porter, which is Bubastite. Bubastite. Portal, Portal. Okay? And it's also called the Shishak inscription. And it's also called the Shishak Stele. Okay? If I'm going a little bit too fast, y'all can go back and watch the class. But take these names down, and when you get home, look up what I'm giving you, because we can't get it on the monitor right at this time. Okay. Now, I did mention why Jerusalem is not mentioned on Shishak's list, because he was paid off, and we just read about Solomon's riches. Now, the Buba State Porter, it includes a large relief in which Shishak lists more than 150 towns and people he conquered during his military campaign into Israel and into Judah in 925 BC. Now, Shishak years was 945, approximate 945 to 925 BC. Okay? And also, Shishak took vast amounts of gold and silver that flooded Egypt. Now, when Shishak's son, Osarkon I, became king, he erected a granite pillar in a temple at Bubastis. In the eastern Nile Delta, he made an offering of 383 tons of gold and silver to the deities of Egypt. Now, where did he get all that from? Most of it came out of Jerusalem, from the temple and from the treasures. Now, his successor, who was Shishak II, was buried in a coffin made of pure silver. Now, all these riches came from the royal treasures and the temple of Jerusalem, as well as other cities taken in the Shishak invasion. Now, can you get a picture of the silver coffin of Shishak II? Can you get that up there? Can you get on it and do something, Rakar? Or it is what it is? Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, we can't, now write this down. Write down the silver coffin of Shishak II. And also write down Osorkon the first, Osorkon. Write that down and go look it up, okay? Because we can't get it up there right now. And the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom began to rely on Egypt in alliances, and Egypt made promise, but they never came through. But in the kingdom of Judah, you had pro-Egyptians and pro-Assyrian Israelites. Some was for the Assyrians and some was for the Egyptians. Because remember, when the Babylonians was rising up, the Israelites kept switching sides. They made alliance with Babylon, they made alliance with Egypt, and they made alliance with Assyria. Okay, who was most powerful? Okay, now the Assyrian Empire was headed by powerful rulers. You had Tiglath-Pileser was one. You had Sargon II was one. You had Shalmaneser was one. And you had Sennacherib was powerful. And you had Ashurbanipal was another one. But the Assyrian Empire squatted up all these minor kingdoms, including the kingdom of Israel. But there was alliances made with Assyria and Egypt. So we're going to go more into when the Most High sent the prophets to the northern kingdom, and he sent the prophets to the southern kingdom, explaining to them and denouncing the alliances that they made with Egypt. Let's go to Hosea, the 7th chapter and the 11th verse. The book of Hosea, the 7th chapter and the 11th verse.
The book of Hosea, 7th chapter, and begin at the 11th verse.
Right.
Ephraim also is like a silly dove without heart.
What they do?
They call to Egypt, they go to Assyria.
They go to Assyria, making alliances. Ephraim represent the northern kingdom, the northern tribes. The scriptures say because they doing that, the Most High say, you're a silly dove. You go to Egypt, you go to Assyria, and you call to Egypt for alliances and for help. Let's go to 2 Kings 17 chapter and the 3rd to the 6th verse. 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, from the 3rd to the 6th verse.
2 Kings,
the 17th chapter, from the 3rd verse to the 6th verse.
Against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Syria,
right.
And Hosea became his servant and gave him presents.
Right, go ahead.
And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hosea.
Why? Why? Because he was making alliances with Egypt. Read on.
For he had sent messengers to So king of Egypt.
Right.
And brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went unto Samaria and besieged it 3 years.
Go ahead.
In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in the Habor by the river of Gazan in the cities of the Medes.
So that's when the northern kingdom went into captivity in 722 BC. Now let's go to the book of Jeremiah. The book of Jeremiah, the 46th chapter and the 20th verse. The book of Jeremiah, the 46th chapter and the 20th verse.
Jeremiah 46 and 20. Egypt is like a very fair heifer, but destruction cometh. It cometh out of the north.
So it say Egypt is like a very beautiful cow. Okay, that's what that fair heifer is. A very beautiful cow, but the scriptures say, but destruction cometh. It cometh out of the north. Who was coming from the north? The Babylonians. And this is talking about the battle of Carchemish or Carchemish in 605 BC. Write these dates down. In 605 BC. Okay, destruction is coming from the north. That was Nebuchadnezzar coming out. That's when the Babylonians was coming into power at that time. And read on 21st.
Also, her hired men are in the midst of her like fatted bullocks, for they also are turned back, and are fled away together.
Okay, they said that her young men are like fatted bullocks. They're like fat young cows, but they fled from the battle. They are fleeing back. Read on.
They did not stand, because the day of their calamity was come upon them, and in the time of their visitation.
Read on. Read the 22nd.
The voice thereof shall go like a serpent, for they shall march with an army, and come against her with axes and hewers of wood.
And hewers of wood. So Egypt shall be like a snake, making a hiss sound as it is trying to get away in battle. Okay. Now from here, let's go to Lamentations 2 and 9.
Her gates are sunk unto the ground. He hath destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. The Lord is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord.
Okay, so the Israelite, their gates is sunk into the ground. The spiritual, all the protection, all the power, the spiritual and the physical. Israel lost that. Remember when Israel went into the Babylonian captivity, you had the first deportation. You had, I think it was the prophet Ezekiel went with the first. Then there was a second deportation. The prophet Daniel went with the second. You had nobles that was going with the first deportation and the second. So the Babylonians was getting the best of the Israelites, because they was training these Israelites. They was nobles, but they was training these Israelites into the Babylonian way of life. Okay, how to work the Babylonian system. That's how you got Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Okay, they changed their names, gave them Babylonian names. Daniel's name was changed to Belshazzar. Anytime the Egyptians, when they took over king of Judah, they changed his name. And when Nebuchadnezzar came through, the Babylonians took it over and put one of Josiah's son on the throne. They changed his name to a Babylonian name. Okay, to show you that they in power. Okay, you're under us. Okay, so when Israel went into captivity, they had the prophets with them. So the prophets had the answers. They had the advice for the people, just like today in America. You got the prophets here in America advising the people, telling them why, telling them the future, what's going to happen in the future, why they went into captivity, and then how to praise and how to deal with the Most High and how to repent. Okay, we still got that going on here in America. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 7th chapter and the 4th verse. Jeremiah, the 7th chapter and the 4th verse.
Trust ye not in lying words, saying, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord are these. Are these,
because before Jerusalem fell, there was false prophets out there. And Jeremiah said, look, don't trust in lying words, saying the temple of the Most High are these, because Israel felt if the temple is still standing, the Most High will protect them. But the Most High destroyed that temple. A lot of Israelites thought that way and they felt that way. And a lot of Israelites really couldn't believe that the Most High would do that to them. That's why they went into mixing the Most High with these other gods, the Babylonian gods, the Egyptian gods, because Israel was what? About monotheism, about one God. They began to get into polytheism, which is a mixture of the Most High dealing with many gods. Okay, from here, let's go to 2 Kings 25. 2 Kings 25 and 25.
But it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal, came, and 10 men were with him, and smote Gedaliah, that he died.
Yeah, they smoked Gedaliah. Go ahead.
And the Jews of the Chaldees that were with him at Mizpah.
So Gedaliah was the governor of Judah. They was put back in the land under the Babylonians, and Gedaliah was the governor. So these men, these Israelites rose up, Ishmael and other men, and they killed Gedaliah. Read this 26th verse.
And And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt.
And they rose, where did they go?
To Egypt.
They went down to Egypt. Read on.
They were afraid of the Chaldees.
They were afraid of the Babylonians. And when Israel went into Egypt, what I've read, they built a temple in Egypt. They built a temple in Elephantine. Okay, and I was reading that when Cambyses, the Persian king, when Cambyses came in, he started destroying all the temple that was erected to the Egyptian gods, but he didn't mess with the Israelite temple in Elephantine. Okay, that's Cambyses II. Now let's go to Hosea, the 9th chapter. Hosea, the 9th chapter, and the 9th and the 10th verse.
They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. Therefore, he will remember their iniquity. He will visit their sins.
He will visit their sins. Read on.
I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers at the first stripe in the fig tree at her first time. But they went to Baal-Peor.
These are Canaanites gods. Baal-Peor. Read on.
And separated themselves unto that shame. And their abominations were according to as they loved.
Okay, read the 11th verse.
As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird.
This is the northern kingdom. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird from birth. Read on.
From the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception.
And all the glory of the Most High now is just a shadow. Okay, we're really not getting the glory of the Most High. We're just getting a shadow of it. And let's go back up to that 9th verse. Read that again.
They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. Therefore, he will remember their iniquity. He will visit their sins.
Right. Now, y'all remember what happened in the days of Gibeah? In the book of Judges. Judges, I think it's the 19th chapter. Remember when this Israelite was sojourning and he went into Gibeah and he had his concubine with him? And the men of that area abused his concubine. So the Most High, read that 9th verse again, said they have deeply corrupted themselves as in the days of Gibeah. This is referring to Judges, the 19th chapter. Go and read that. Write that down and go and read that and find out what happened in Gibeah and what happened to those men that corrupted this brother's concubine. They was dealt with. You had the Ephraimites and you had the Benjamites. That's in Judges, the 19th chapter. Okay, let's go from here. Let's go to Jeremiah, the 11th chapter, and the 12th to the 14th verse.
Then shall the cities of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem go and cry unto the gods unto whom they offered incense. They shall not save them at all in the time of their trouble.
Read on.
For according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to thy number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal.
To Baal. Okay, we're going to get into Baal later because the Israelites went into the Baal worship. They went into Asherah worship. They went into Baal-Peor. They went into Ishtar. They went into Molech. They went into Inanna worship. Okay, I had another picture, but we're not going to be able to get it. I had a picture of the 5-point star. Okay, when Israel went into idols, they was using the 5-point star. Okay, we always speak about the 6-point star, right? The Star of David. But the Israelites was using the 5-point star. I don't have the picture, but that 5-point star, Israel had the initials of Jerusalem in between the points in the Hebrew script, Jerusalem. It had the the Y, the R, the S, L, and the M. Okay, in between the 5 points. But I'm gonna give y'all some information and y'all can go look it up because we can't get it up here. Okay, but Israel was using the 5-point star. They was using all these different things from the other nation. They was into their deities. Okay, they had the pentagram on jars. They had the pentagram on pottery in ancient Israel. All throughout the 2nd century BC, Israel adopted a lot of Hellenistic ways, the Babylonian ways, the Egyptian ways, the Greco-Roman ways. Okay, like I said, the YRSL and M of Jerusalem, they use that as a stamp. Okay, those letters was between the 5-point star. Now, when we read about Baal was the chief god of the Canaanites, and Israel would make sacrifices to Baal. Baal was a fertility god that would bring them rich soil, bring them rain, bring them good weather, great crops. Baal was considered the sun god. Now, when you read in this book of Kings, remember the battle that the prophet Elijah had with Ahab and Jezebel's priests? That was Baal, because Baal was considered, they putting their trust in Baal. He was considered the sun god, okay, that can bring great crops and rich soil. So Elijah was sent to prove that. Okay, if you, that God that can bring rain, if you, that God that can change weather, do that right now. But Baal couldn't do that. But the Most High had Elijah to perform, and Elijah ended up killing all of the priests. I think it's about 400 priests. All those 400 priests was put to death. It was 400, wasn't it? Okay, all of them was put to death. Okay, also you got Shira, Inanna, all the goddess. Okay, and Baal is behind all the perversion that you see in the world today. Inanna, the goddess, they behind all that, all the child sacrifice, all the abortions, the sodomites, pornography, all that is happening today. That was happening back then, and all those demonic gods that was back then, they are here today, and they're beginning to manifest themselves. It's getting real strong out there now. Okay, with the perverseness. Okay, with sodomites and all that. With the pornography. You got even ministers is getting caught up in this thing, man. It's getting caught up in this sodomite, the LBGT and all that. They're getting caught up in all that because these same gods, these same demonic forces that was back then, they are manifesting itself today with much power. With much power. Okay, and you got to watch your children, man. Brothers and sisters, because they own the internet and they all over the place with it. So you got to monitor them. You got to watch them, okay? Because that spirit is out here, and that spirit is heavy. That perverse spirit is heavy. Okay, working all in the people's minds. They don't realize it though, that them same demons, them same demonic forces that was back in the past, they was laying low for a minute, but now it's out there. That's why some of the African leaders said, no, we're not having that over in our country. We're not having that. Okay, we're not going to deal with that in our country. You see that? So you have to be very mindful and watch your young ones, brothers and sisters. Watch your kids. You see that? Because you look all over the internet, you read the newspaper, you watch the news. What would make young people so happy to want to kill each other? And they happy about doing it. They happy about dying. They happy about going to jail. They happy about being a sodomite. They happy about being a lesbian. They happy about child abortion. They happy about perverseness. Okay, that's them same forces that was back then is working in their minds, man. They are here today. The gods that was back then, the demonic gods back then, they are here today, brothers and sisters. So you got to be very, very careful. You see that? Okay, because all these activities is going on in the earth today. It's the same thing. And you can actually feel it. You can actually feel that vibration. You can see it, man. Yeah. Right. 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 It's too aggressive, you know, because if you take the public transportation, it's sometimes, I mean, you'll be sitting there and somebody is sitting next to you, may bump your leg, and then they communicating with the next person, but they aggressive. Their conversation is aggressive, and they keep bumping you. And now you say something, it's going to turn into something else. It just, when that aggressive get around in my area, in my comfort zone, I have to move. I have to get out of that. It's too much aggressive. And then you say something, then it's going to get negative. See, that's if you're taking the public transportation. And a lot of us do that. But you may get that on your jobs. Everything is aggressive today. It's all aggressive. Right? So you got to watch your young people. It's like they don't care no more today. They don't care about anything today, not even life, brother. On the internet, holding up guns and everything. Okay, let's go to the book of Judges, Mike. The book of Judges, the 6th chapter. The book of Judges, the 6th chapter, from the 25th to the 26th verse.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 6, verse 25. And it came to pass the same night that the Most High said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father have, and cut down the grove that is by it.
Right, read on.
Verse 26. And build an altar unto the Most High thy power upon the top of this rock, in the order place, and take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou have cut down.
Okay, now when you read on down, Gideon, this is Gideon. Gideon mustered a host, built an army, and went out and fought against Baal worshipers. But first, before the Most High fought for Gideon, before he set Gideon up, what did Gideon have to do first? He had to destroy his father's altar to Baal. He had to do that first. He had to get rid of that. And then the Most High began to work with him. You see that? Okay, let's go to 2 Kings 23. The book of 2 Kings, the 23rd chapter. And let's read the 7th verse.
Book of 2 Kings, chapter 23.
This is when King Josiah of Judah came into power. Read on.
Verse 7. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites.
He broke down the houses of who?
The Sodomites.
Sodomites,
yeah. That were by the house of the Most High.
Right. It was by the Sodomites' house was by who house? The Most High, the temple. Read on.
Where the women wove hanging for the grove.
Where they wove hangings for the grove. So you see what they're doing, right? Let's read that again. Read that 7th verse again.
This is book of 2 Kings, chapter 23, verse 7. And he brought down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Most High, where the women wove hangings for the grove.
Where they wove hangings for the grove. So what they was doing, the Sodomites, they was committing these Sodomites acts in the honor of the idols that they worship. And when it say that the women wove hangings for the grove, the hangings were like curtains. Okay, curtains are covering the compartments for them to commit their abomination wickedness in private. And the grove was like a wooden image representing Ashtaroth, representing the goddess. Okay, read the 14th verse.
Verse 14. And he brake in pieces the images and cut down the groves and filled their places with the bones of men.
With the bones of men. Let's jump up to the 4th verse.
The 4th verse.
Right.
This is
same chapter.
2 Kings chapter 23 verse 4. And the king commanded H.O.D.C, the high priest, and the priests of the second order, and the keepers of the door, to bring forth out of the temple of the Most High all the vessels that were made for Baal.
Right, all the vessels that was made for Baal. Read on.
And for the grove, and for all the hosts of heaven. And he burned them with Jerusalem in the field.
He burned them without Jerusalem in the field.
Oh, sorry. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the fields of Kidron. Right. And carried the ashes of them onto Bethel.
Onto Bethel. Now let's go to the 10th chapter. Same book. Let's go to 2 Kings, the 10th chapter, from the 21st to the 24th verse.
10th chapter.
Yeah, the 10th chapter. Same book. 2 Kings, the 10th chapter, and the 21st to the 24th verse.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 10, verse 21. And Jehu sent through all Israel, and all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not a man left that came not. And they came into the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was full from one end to another. Verse 22.
It said, and they came into what? The house of Baal, and the house of Baal was full from one end to another. Read on.
Verse 22. And he said unto him that was over the vestry, bring forth vestments for all the worshippers of Baal.
Okay, so the vestry is, there was certain robes that the worshippers and priests of Baal wore. So Jehu said, bring vestments for all the worships of Baal. Read on.
And he brought them forth vestments.
Okay.
Verse 23. And Jehu went, and Jehoiada, the son of Rechab,
Jehonadab, read on,
into the house of Baal, and said unto the worshippers of Baal, search and look, and that there be here with you none of the servants of the Most High, but the worshippers of Baal only.
Read the 24.
Verse 24. And when they went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offering, Jehu appointed 80 men without, and said, if any of the men whom I have brought into your hands escape, he that letteth him go, his life shall be for the life of him.
Okay, now we go into the book of Psalms now. So I'm just showing you that the Baal worship, the Asherah worship, the Inanna worship, the Ashtaroth, the Molech, all of those go into the same thing. Perversion, it's the same thing. Okay, so and we got that today, and it's really opening up all that demonic and these demonic gods that we read about in the script, and the ancient gods is manifesting itself today. You see it all in the streets. You see it all on the internet. You see it all on your jobs. You see it on the what they call the Pride Day. You know, usually when I work, right, you know, I take the public transportation. I try to take off on that day so I won't have to run into any of that. But I forgot. I was trying to figure out, you know, what day is what, you know. I never knew, you know. I'm trying to figure out what day is what. I said, when is that day? I didn't take off. So when I went to work, I ran right smack into it, man. All on the subway trains. I mean, hey, man. You in the midst of them forces, you in the midst of that, brother. It's like you trapped right in the center of this thing. I had to take the train all the way to West 4th to come back up because the D train wasn't working at 47 and 50, so I had to go all the way down and to take a, you know, because I'm going to 125th Street, to take a or what have you. So every train came by was crowded with them on there. I said, no, you know, the express trains. I said, no, man, I can't stand in the midst of this thing, man. So I said, let me wait on a local. So I waited on a local, didn't have many people. I went on and I made it uptown, you know. It's just madness out there with these ancient demonic powers and these demonic gods and forces. It's back. It's back. It's manifesting itself. And it's going to get very powerful in these last days. Okay, when they're giving them the rights to do this, the rights to do that, taking the Bibles, the prayers and stuff out of school, it's getting very powerful now. Okay, that you can be charged with what they call it, the you know what bashing and all this other stuff. You can get charged, go to jail, and you can't really say much. Okay, so it's getting very powerful now. See? Okay, now let's go to the book of Psalms 106. The book of Psalms 106 and the 34th to the 40th verse.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 106, verse 34.
Come on.
They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Most High commanded them.
This Israel problem. They did not destroy the nations that the Most High gave them an order to destroy. Read on.
Verse 35. But were mingled among the heathens and learned their works.
That's Israel's problem, the Israelites' problem. Read on.
Verse 36. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Verse 37. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils.
Unto the devils. Read on.
Verse 38. And shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood.
Read on.
Verse 39. Thus were they defiled with their own words, and went a-whoring with their own inventions.
Read the 40th verse.
Verse 40. Therefore was the wrath of the Most High kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance.
He hated his own inheritance, man, because Israel always tried to make an alliance with different nations, always ignored the voice of the prophets, always tried to mingle with Egypt. It's just like today. You get our brothers and sisters that's Egyptologists, okay? I mean, they fascinated with that. So we're still doing the same thing, okay? But that destroyed us, okay? That wasn't the only reason. Egypt wasn't the only reason. It was because Israel went and mingled with these other nations, Israelites, and started doing what these other nations was doing, and they disobeyed the Most High. Okay, from here, let's go to Jeremiah 44 and 17. The book of Jeremiah, the 44th chapter and the 17th verse. And we're going to read about the Queen of Heaven. That's Asherah as well, the Queen of Heaven. You got Ishtar is Babylonian. Inanna is Mesopotamian, Sumerian. And Ashtoreth is the title of the Queen of Heaven. Okay? Jeremiah, the 44th chapter and the 17th verse.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 44, verse 17. But we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven,
Right?
and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil.
Saw no evil. You know, see what Israel is saying? Okay, from here I had a picture of the White House with the rainbow colors. Okay, did y'all see that?
Yeah.
But we know what the rainbow colors, who they belong to. Let's go to Genesis, the 9th chapter. 9 and 13. Genesis 9 and 13.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 9, verse 13.
Right, go ahead.
I do set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth.
Okay, that's the Most High. That rainbow represents the covenant of the Most High. It doesn't represent the LBG and T community and all
All the
that.
acronyms.
Yeah, it represents the Most High and His covenant.
Right.
See, but I wanted to show a picture of the White House in those rainbow colors. Okay, because they about that too. See, we're stuck in the middle of this whole thing, man. See, you got this spirit of these powers that's out there now, and they have the ability to change a man into a woman and change a woman into a man. And I have read that there were cross dressers back in ancient days, you know, where men with beards dressed up as women offering to these different gods, you know, in dresses and, you know, dressed up in women clothing, offering to these gods and stuff. Okay, but now y'all can go look this up. I had to put up, but we can't get it. I had a picture of the seal of Inanna. Inanna. That's a goddess. The seal of Inanna. 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 And then you had these gods like Ishtar, is both male and female. Yeah. And you have Inanna is in the Sumerian poems, okay? And then one of the poems states is to turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man are yours, Inanna. Okay, this goes into, I have read the gender and aging in Mesopotamia, the Gilgamesh epic and other ancient literature. That was by Rivka Harris, or Rivka Harris. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Okay. And in another place, Inanna, the goddess, it's in one place, it's stating, it's a, though I am a woman, I am a noble young man. See? So that spirit is out here. You see what's going on? Okay, that spirit is out here. So what I had gave you, brothers and sisters, you all take home, look it up. I was going to try to get it up there, but y'all take it. Can we get something? Okay, can we get the ones before that? Okay, get me the Booba State Porter. Huh? That's the only one you got?
No, I can get the other one.
So can it come up there or down here? So, I mean, would the people live see it? Okay, so can they see all of them from there?
Yeah.
Okay, well let's go to the Booba State first. Cause I was gonna close out with this, but since we got the pictures, let's try to get the pictures and then I close out.
What's the one you want?
The Booba State Porter. That was the first one I asked for. Can we go back and get that? Oh, yeah, the inscription, the Shishak inscription, it's the same thing. Right here. where the brothers and sisters in here, y'all just write down what I gave you, and y'all go look that up. We're gonna get this for the people that's live. So can we go with that? As long as the people live can see it. Yeah, we'll work with the congregation.
Okay, that's up there.
Okay. Okay, the viewers can see that, right? Okay, the Buba State Porter, also called the Shishak inscription, and is also called the Shishak Stele, and it records the conquest and the military campaigns in 925 of Shishak or Shoshenq of the 22nd dynasty. Or it records his military campaigns, but like I had stated, Jerusalem is not mentioned on the list as being destroyed, because we just read where Rehoboam paid King Shishak, paid him off, right? So the Israelites humbled themselves, the southern kingdom humbled themselves when the prophet went to them, so the Most High spared Jerusalem. Y'all got it? The Most High spared it. It wasn't destroyed, okay? Because a lot of scholars they back and forth with this. Well, they didn't record that Jerusalem was destroyed. Well, the scriptures didn't say that Jerusalem was destroyed. It say that Egypt, King Shishak took the riches. Okay, it took the riches of Jerusalem, but Jerusalem was not destroyed. Now, get me the silver coffin of Shishak II, or Shishak II. Y'all see that? The viewers, he was buried in a coffin made of pure silver. You see that? Okay. That's good right there.
No, it's not on there.
Oh, it's not? Okay. Can you put it in the middle a little bit? Or you may have to make it a little smaller. That's good enough?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's image or picture of the silver coffin that Shishak II was buried in, right there. Okay, pure silver. Okay, take me to the strata. Take me to the pentagrams in Judea. Right, that's it. Can you make it a little bigger? You got a what? Oh, okay. I mean, if not, if the viewers looking at that 5-pointed star, this was in Judea, They carried that in the second century BC. If you look at the letters in between the points, that's the Y, Jerusalem. You see that? That was a seal that they used back at that time in a second century BC, because the Israelites adopted some of the Hellenistic ways, like they adopted the Babylonian ways, they adopted some of the Egyptian ways, they adopted some of the Roman ways. Yeah, so y'all see that.
But the letters in between.
Right, in between. I just want them to see that. That was Israelites. If you look at, I tried to find one of the jugs. I had that a few years ago. One of the jugs with the pentagram on it in ancient Israel. Remember the last class that I did, where one of King Hezekiah's stamps, one of his seals had the Ankh on it, because that came from those alliances with Egypt. But King Hezekiah wasn't using the Ankh. He wasn't wearing the Ankh. So should Israelites go out and start wearing the Ankh? Should we wear the 5-point star? You know, you get some of us to go out there and get the 5-point star. I remember at 125th Street when we began to learn about the Byzantine Empire, or some would say the Byzantine or the Byzantine Empire. A lot of us was wearing the Maltese cross. Y'all ever seen the Maltese cross? You ever seen the firemen with their symbol? That's the Maltese cross. The little cross with the little wide cross, the red wide cross. We used to wear that back on 125th Street. The sewers used to make scarves with the Maltese cross right in the front. Yeah, with the hole on top. Matter of fact, I had one, because we was learning about the Byzantine Empire, and we was reading about the stuff that they wore. We was wearing it too. We was getting our sewers to putting all types of emblems on our boots, on our jackets, on our garments, and on our scarves. You see that? So let's go from there. Get me the picture of Inanna, the goddess Inanna. Can you just recall? Can he just pull up something? Just say if I want the Maltese cross, can y'all just pull it up for me, so I can show them? You it got to be in here. Okay. Okay. Well, y'all write it down and y'all go look it up. You know, look up the Maltese cross. Go home and do that. Huh? Oh yeah, I'm gonna get that. Okay, we gonna get that. Get me the goddess picture of the Inanna, goddess of Inanna.
Yes, sir. Yes, there.
Yeah.
Right there.
It's the first. It's the first one that you put.
Go across. Come out. No.
Yeah.
One more. The other way. The other way. Right there.
Right. Get that one. Can you go up a little bit, because she should have her foot on a lion, right? Right. So y'all go home, Google this, read up on it, and I'm showing you a little bit of what gods or what forces that's out there now, because they never died. They never went away. And then you wonder why so much killing in the world now. Why the young people have no fear in killing you or taking you out, or have no fear in dying. Have no fear. No, I'm saying those are the gods. Those are the forces that's controlling the minds. Not because of that picture. It's because of that goddess and that name. And the next name that we're gonna get, Baal, that power. I'm talking about the power behind these gods. That's what I'm talking about. So we operate and we move the way we move because the power behind who? That's behind us. The Most High. Okay, the Most High is well and alive, brother. Yahweh is well and alive, protecting us day by day. So his power is keeping us in operation. So what power is keeping this world to do what it does in wickedness? What power is out there to keep the world in bloodshed? What power is out there to keep the world in perversion? It's not the Most High. So you got Satan, but there are forces that he's using that's out there. See, you look at Baal. What do we have in it? What does Baal have in his arm? A child. So the abortion, perverseness, all that comes into play. All of it comes into play, man. Okay, you have another picture. It's two pictures of Baal. It's another one should be up there too. Let's go to Ephesians the 6th chapter, because some of you looking at me like I'm not, like I'm just making something up. Ephesians the 6th chapter, Mike. Read the 12th verse, right to the point.
This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 6,
and
verse.
I'll wait and you can continue to get that other picture of Baal. Come on, Mike.
Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
That's what we're dealing with, brothers and sisters. Every day, that's what we're dealing with. And everybody want to get mad at Jill Scott because of the song that she sung, which is true. But if you get up and talk about wickedness, they'll give you a standing ovation. See, they don't want to hear truth. They don't want to hear righteousness. Like I always say, it's hard for a righteous man to be righteous or a woman to be righteous in a wicked society, in a wicked world. It's rough. Especially you got to go out there to and fro. You got to go through the battle. You got to go out there. You got to go out there and deal with these forces. But the scriptures say, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And I think it's one in Corinthians, Mike, 10 and 4, about the strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4, I think. Let's try that one.
Yeah,
let's get that one then. See, because this battle is real. These entities that we are going over, they are real. These forces are real. Okay, and I know I kind of mixed my class up a little bit. We spoke about Egypt and the title and so forth, but now we're going into what we're actually going into today, what our children is going into today, what we deal with every day out here in this society. Spiritual battles, spiritual entities, the old gods, the old forces are being made manifest today. Read 10 and 4, Mike. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High, to the pulling down of strongholds.
Right. So the weapons of our warfare, we will have to rely strongly on the Most High. So if the Most High is active, so are these other gods. It's active. And you see throughout the years and years, now, all of a sudden now, you got the sodomites coming out everywhere, lesbianism, you got killing, you got murders, you got bloodshed, you got guns, you got all types of things. You got the penitentiary, prisons is being filled up. Everything is out there now. Why? Because of these forces that we're talking about today. These demonic gods is being manifested. They would sleep a little bit, but now they wide awake. They're wide awake now. That's why a lot of our people that's growing up, a lot of young people, they get caught into this whole twist of things. They get caught in this whole cycle. You know, growing up, okay, you live on the block. You want to make some money, so you get into the streets. Sell drugs. Okay, got people live down this block, the street over here. Everybody they know one another in the neighborhood. So you blowing up, you got money now. So one guy in the neighborhood, okay, now, nigga here got some money. Comes to rob you. He get off on you, he robs you. You see him again. Now you want to take him out. But you might and you might not. But guess what? Now, his family lose, he lose, and his family lose because he got to go to jail. And this guy that he shot, he might die or he may be paralyzed for life. So he lose and his family lose. See, because they both was raised by this same negative influence system. They both was brought up by the same system, the same negative knowledge of this system. So nobody wins in this thing, right or wrong. Nobody wins. Because those forces out there, like we just read, the weapons of our warfare is not carnal. We should always walk on a spiritual level. We should always think spiritual. We should always, when we speak to one another, it should always be spiritual. It should always be power. It should always be to uplift one another, not to put one another down, because once you do that, boom, one of them forces that I just showed you today is going to be right in the midst of it. The same thing, growing up in the neighborhood, you on the block, making money. Now, you selling, you're doing well, but now you would sell to make that money. People that live down the street that you was in a sandbox with, that you grew up with, you will sell them drugs. You'll sell them crack. That you grew up with them. One of the girls on the next street will come over, pregnant, want drugs. You'll sell it to her too. Hey, that's how low we have became, brothers and sisters, and I'm showing you that. Because these forces, and we're allowing it. Even the guy lived down the street. Y'all may not have been cool, but you know one another. You're from the same neighborhood. His mother can get strung out on crack and come and want to buy from you, but don't have enough money. But she want to offer you some sex. What you gonna do? You will take it. And you will have all the partners behind you to deal with her too. But you know her son. Y'all went to school together. Grew up on the same block. See how low we have became? And nobody wins in this bowl right here. Nobody wins in this system that we're living in now. There are no winners of our people in this. There's no winners. Everybody lose if you involved in that lifestyle. Or you can be in the gangs. It don't matter if it started, if the Crips and Bloods started in LA or what have you. And LA said that's the motherland. No, but in New York, if you got Crips and Blood, they dying too. Their mother got to go to funerals too, just like in LA. I don't care if it's in Kentucky, Crips and Blood. Look, that old Rocky Road down there, their mother got to bury their son too. It's still death. It's still bloodshed. You see that? So there are no winners in this thing, man. As long as these forces is out there, there's no winners. So that's why the scriptures say the kingdom have to be taken and then given back to the people that the Most High started out with. And that's the Israelites. When we read about the Most High said that we were the Israelites were the right grapes. The Most High had joy into making a covenant with his people. He delighted in that. But when we failed him, the Most High said, yeah, I got to put fire to that behind now, because they into everything. They into all these demonic forces out here. Baal, Ashtaroth, Inanna, Ishtar, you name them all. Molech, all these different gods. Sacrificing your own children. That's what some of the kings of Judah was doing. Manasseh, Hezekiah's son, ruled longer than any king of the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. He ruled for 55 years, one of the most wickedest, but he ruled longer than any of them, sacrificing his own children. Now you sit back and you try to imagine, and what was going on here? Well, they doing it today. They doing abortions. Yeah. So these different forces is back today, brothers and sisters. I just wanted to give y'all this. Give me the White House. Give me the picture of the White House. And then we're going to wrap things up. We're going to close with that. But I got that second class for you. Yes, I got that for you. Why y'all laughing? Why y'all laughing for the second class? See, that second class, I got a couple tests for you, though. Y'all won't be laughing then, huh? I got a couple tests. Now, I mean, if you in the book, it should be in you. But the 50 question test that I give you, I'm going to give you opportunity to study that. But this is just something I'm going to just throw at you just to see where you at. If you're in the book, it's going to show that you're in the book. Yeah. Where you going, Grace? You going home? Okay, I got you. All right, sister. Okay. All right. See the White House in those colors? Yeah. So, brothers and sisters, the scriptures say, lean on the Most High. Don't lean up on your own understanding. Lean up on the Most High for everything. Because we are in a spiritual battle. All types of battle. We dealing with all types of entities, spiritual entities out here. Lust, you deal with greed, you deal with everything out here, brother. We got to walk through it all. Okay, some of us may not even have, we may have family members that don't even like to hear you even say Most High, you know. But it is what it is. That's part of the battle. Okay, but you have to be strong in this thing. You have to be strong in it and stay strong in the Most High. So with that, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to close with that. And I say Shabbat Shalom to the viewers. I hope you got something out of the class. And I say Shalom to the brothers and sisters out there. All right, Shalom.